Good morning to one and all present here. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the third day of International Webinar on Women and Development on behalf of the Department of Economics, Kerala University. First of all, I would like to welcome our moderator of the session, Rizwan KJ, MPhil, Kerala University. Now, let me welcome the speaker of today's webinar, Dr. Christabell PJ, University of Kerala, Aravind Panikkaveettil, Sree Shiga, and Dr. S. Harikumar to the webinar. I am honored to welcome the head of the department, Professor Anova Siddik Rabiyath, Professor and Organizing Secretary of the webinar. I would also like to welcome Asha S. for delivering the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 9th session of the 3-day international webinar on women and development. We had some very interesting sessions with some very informative discourses in these past 2 days. And in this session, we will be having 2 paper presentations. And these papers will be discussing a lot, ranging from the gender differences in the educational attainment of people belonging to, say, specific communities, to the employability of women in STEM-related jobs. And the first paper will be presented by Dr. Christabell PJ, who is Associate Professor, Department of Economics, University of Kerala, on the topic, the earning potential and job satisfaction among women in STEM-related jobs. And the second paper is by Aravind Panikkaveettil, Sree Shiga PS, both of who belong to the Social Science Division of the Integrated Rural Technology Center at Palakkad, and Dr. S. Harikumar sir from the Department of Applied Economics, Cochin University of Science and Technology. And I kindly request both presenters to try to keep your presentations within 15-20 minutes. And I think we can have the discussion after both the presentations, if that is okay with the presenters.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction. So I think my PowerPoint is visible.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the title of the presentation is Earning Potential and Job Satisfaction Among Women in STEM-related Jobs. A very good morning to one and all. Professor Anita B, Professor Harikumar, Mr. Siddik Rabiyath, and other teachers and other community, other people who are there in the economics community, my students. So a very warm good morning to everyone. So I'm directly going into my presentation. It is about how the STEM field is there in the world. So let me give a small introduction on what is STEM. We all know that it is the acronym for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. So it is a concept started in US in 1990s. Then it has been taken up by the different international communities, especially the OECD and other communities, in the context of knowledge-based economy. Okay, so what happened is that as far as the STEM education and STEM jobs are concerned, it can include anything which is related to the STEM disciplines. It can be any event, it can be policies, it can be programs or practices which are related to the STEM disciplines. So when it comes to the jobs or the profession, we can see that it includes the different professional and technical support occupations in the fields of especially computer science, mathematics, engineering, life and physical sciences. So some of the countries, they include medical sciences also into the STEM field, but some countries, especially the OECD countries, they consider medical field as a different one, and they concentrate more on the physical sciences, even statistics, mathematics, computer science, engineering fields into the ambit of STEM. So some definitional issues are there. As far as India is concerned, we are not having a specific definition, but we started using the concept of STEM, especially in the context of knowledge economy or knowledge society. So what happens is that naturally, because of the artificial intelligence and other advancements in the field of technology, the field of STEM has become very, very important, and all the countries in the world, they have given importance to the different aspects of different things in the tertiary field, because so that more students can be attracted to STEM education, and that will help to increase the STEM workforce in the country. So, but at the same time, as far as this conference is concerned, we are discussing about the issues which are faced by the women. And naturally, I am also trying to look into the field of STEM from the point of view of women. Why it is like that? Because we all know that in the global scenario, the workforce in STEM-related field is having an acute shortage. That's the reason why we all know that many of our engineers, they migrate to some other countries, especially US or European countries, because there is some shortages in those countries, so that our best brains are being trained to those kind of countries. But when it comes to the gender dimension of this whole scenario, we can see that there is a long-lasting underrepresentation of women, not only in the jobs but also in the education. Because if the women are educated in the STEM field, then only that can be converted to the jobs. So that is the general background of this paper, and I have divided the paper into 5 sections. It is there in the I sent that paper to the organizer. Okay, so introduction, review, methods, findings and discussions, concluding remarks. So the scheme of presentation will also be like that. So by introducing my topic, we can see that when it comes to India, as we have already seen, that India's population is having a young workforce. The huge young workforce is our right, but at the same time, we have our own issues on the skills, and we try to enhance the skills of the people, and that is the reason why India is at the focus, especially from the point of view of global context, because if we leverage in our strengths on human capital, we will become a global leader in terms of the knowledge-based economy, which is actually ruling the world, and it is going to rule the world in the years to come. So naturally, we need to enhance the proportion of scientists and engineers in the field, so that STEM education as well as STEM field and the and the skills which are needed to perform the jobs in this field is becoming very much necessary. So that is the focus of our economy. So it is in this context only I am trying to give a gender aspect or gender dimension to this particular issue. So mostly, if we look at this particular context, we can see that a lot of literature is available from the point of view of sociology rather than from the point of economics, and from the point of view of human management, human resource management, and so on. So the literature shows that it is there is an image or the stereotyping of these kind of jobs, especially if you take the case of scientists. We all know that the stereotype which is there in the minds of the people will be a male with who is wearing a glass and a lab coat, working alone in running experiments, rather than putting a female in that particular position. So even among the students, that kind of a picture is there, and that has come out repeatedly in different kinds of experiments and different and the same thing could be seen in that is repeated in different experiments and different studies. And when it comes to the jobs, the specific jobs, one specific study I have given over here, that is on the job satisfaction of the research intensive universities in the Middle West. So what they found out is that the job satisfaction did not differ substantially by gender or ethnicity. So that is the most important finding they could make out. But at the same time, you can see that when it comes to retention or staying back in the university, women are less likely to stay back, and also women are less integrated to the network, and also they spent a shorter amount of time in the university, and an interesting factor is that they were most likely to be single. So these kind of research findings are there in the field of STEM, especially in STEM jobs, where the females face a lot of issues, and that particular field. And yet another study that also gives some idea about the gender ratio. When the women enter into this kind of field, they find a huge lot of men in the field, so they feel that it is unwelcoming to them. And naturally, during the recruitment process, they never feel that much difficulties. But in terms of retention, so when they are there in the company, when they are there in the institutions, they feel very unwelcoming and not feeling like staying back. So there is a huge issue of retention. So this is the review says. And there is a research gap, I felt. So I started working on this field on the basis of on the sponsorship of ICSR fund. So it's a project, and this is the research problem I posed for that particular project. And we could find that there is disparity. Even in the case of education, we could see the disparity, even if there is a high participation of women from 1970s. But when it comes to the real contribution or turnout of jobs, we can see that about 1/5 of the female graduates, they are unemployed, where only 1/10 of the male science graduates are unemployed. So naturally, there is some kind of discrimination which is occurring in this particular field of job. So what happens is that UNESCO noticed another important thing is that that is 30% of the female students, they pursue STEM related higher education studies, and they feel that that is a human right for the females. They should access to this kind of education. And some studies, they have very much specifying the fact that they quit the industry in a very early age, and that is one part of the story. And another part of the story is whenever there is a job loss, the women suffer a lot compared to men, and they are not much responded to the investments and employment benefits, because they do not know whether they will be there in the field for a long time. So these are the major issues you can find in this field. And on this broad backdrop, I conducted that study, and it is based on basically mostly on primary sources of data, as the secondary sources of data are not available. But whatever secondary data which we could collect, we collected from the government documents and reports, and the primary data collection. For that, I took 325 people using a stratified random sampling technique, those who are engaging in STEM employment, both men and women, in order to find out the gap and the discrimination and the variation in their responses. And I analyzed this data using different statistical tools and presented in this paper. For this paper, I used 3 types of tools, that is chi-square, Anova, and factor analysis. So let me go very fast through the different findings and discussions. So as we can see in the diagram itself, the gender naturally impacts people's involvement in different fields of the society, that is especially in terms of health, education, employment, etc. So we can see that of the 325 employees, about 36% are women. So we must look into the issue from the point of view of Kerala. Especially the female unemployment is very high, and the educated unemployment is very high. The participation of women in the STEM fields is also low, and we must look this particular issue from the point of view of the largest number of female engineers who are unemployed are in Kerala. So that kind of issues we can find out when we go to the field and started talking to the women. So one of the reasons we could find is that, when it comes to the STEM fields, unlike the non-STEM fields, it needs a lot of years to work on, and you have to invest more money in order to get a degree, or you may have to get more technical skill. So naturally, the women are not that much access to that kind of things, so that that is one of the reasons why the participation of women is less. Yet another thing is that the balance. They find it very difficult to balance their work and life. Some of the women, they enter into fields like IT industry and other STEM jobs, but at the same time, when they get married, especially they get married very early because they get the jobs early also, and when they have their children, they slowly they withdraw from the labor force. So that kind of issues we can find when we interviewed the people who are there in the field. So we try to inquire into the type of employment that people are engaged in, and we divided the whole type of employment into 5 different categories. The first one is academia, as we all know. The people who are highly educated, maybe having PhD and or the other degrees, or the high degrees, they enter into the academic field, maybe in colleges or universities, or even in +2 schools. They have very high degrees in their respective areas, so they contribute to the field in terms of research as well as teaching and other things. So I got a 13% of that people. Yet another group we could find in the central and state government, but there is a huge issue regarding the people who are there in the central and state government employment, because what we could see is that the STEM, the people who are trained in STEM, they find their jobs, or they offer their services to the institutions like ASCB, BSNL, KSRTC, like that. We all know that in some period, the people who have the degree in electronics and communication, many of them, they got absorbed with BSNL. But we know what happened to BSNL, and many of the staff who are there in BSNL, they either took voluntary retirement and so on. So that kind of job opportunities in the government sector that is coming down, and naturally what we can see is that even in Kerala University, in different assistant post, that is the clerical post, the BTech students are there, and they are doing the clerical job rather than doing the STEM related work. So that kind of a perplexing kind of a condition we can find in the employment scenario of our state. Then comes the different. I divided the responses of the respondents on the basis of gender, and we could find that in the case of academia, because in the case of academia, the number of females is high. The reason is that some of the +2 teachers, college teachers, they have become part of my sample. So that is the reason why in academia the females are more, but when it comes to university or research institutes, this need not be the picture in the case. But when we move to the other fields, that is central government, or in the case of IT field, or in the case of engineering field, or other STEM jobs, especially the BPO, that kind of jobs come under this category, where the proportion of females is very less compared to males. I'm sorry, but interestingly, in Kerala, we could find that in the case of the IT and software industry, we could find that there is an equal proportion of females who are working in the field, and they are having a very good opinion about their field, because those who are working in very good MNCs who give very good work-life balance for the women. Sometimes some MNCs, they even give a career break with salary, and when they have their children, the companies give at most support to the women employees in terms of work from home, even before the days of lockdown. So that kind of experiences we could find from the field, and that women who are working in that kind of MNCs and companies which are giving good work-life balance, they found to retain in the industry rather than leaving the industry. So that kind of very interesting kind of features we could find in the field. But at the same time, when you come to these kind of this sector, that is other STEM jobs, which are a bit lower kind of jobs, in which the men are more compared to females, because these jobs are mostly BPO kind of things, and men are found to be working more in that kind of jobs. So yet another aspect which we try to look into to our study is the earnings. So we had a research question in terms of whether there is any difference in the earnings in terms of gender, because both of them are equally qualified, but is there any discrimination, or is there any difference in the earnings? So we could see that in the case of Anova test, there is no significant difference in the case of salaries across the field. That may be because of the range is very high in some of the fields, because if you take some fields like engineering, other than IT, some respondents told that they are only getting 8,000 who are the beginners or the freshers in the field. But at the same time, some other people, they claim that they get on like 80,000, something like that. So you can see that there is a wide disparity in the attainment or the earning potential in the field, and we can see that when it comes to the public sector, especially. The income is stable for both men and women, but at the same time, in the case of private sector, in the next slide, you can see that what is the earning potential of women in the sector, even though the Anova does not confer that there is a difference, but at the same time, if you look at the different values, you can see that the variation is there, especially the range. If you take the range and other different values, the women, the earning potential is a bit lower than that of females. But it is not the earnings which make the women a bit complaining. When we took the interviews, we could found that they feel that they face an issue of glass ceiling. If you look at the different industries in the field, especially in the IT industry or in the high level management kind of industries, what happened is that their mobility is restricted. After a particular level, they can't go up. So they always feel a glass ceiling in their life, and naturally pregnancy, family care, that kind of things. In the case, they face a lot of challenges in their life when compared to men. They are unaffected with all these kind of things. And when it comes to the private sector, many of them are logged in dead-end professions. So they can't go beyond that particular point. We met a lot of medical transcriptionists and that kind of people, the back office job people. They are trained or they are skilled in STEM related jobs, but at the same time, they can't go beyond their level. So that kind of issues is there in the field. So the women started telling more about this kind of discrimination rather than the discrimination which they found in the which we expect in terms of earnings. The earnings is somehow okay, but at the same time, it is about the mobility and the opportunities for advancement. That is the major issue they raised when we took the interviews. So the next step, what we did is that we tried to.
Yeah. Ma'am, I think 15, more than 15 minutes. You could just.
Yeah, I'll conclude. Most of the things are over. Thank you. How many minutes can I take? 2 minutes?
Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you. So the last section of the paper is about the job satisfaction. We took about 12 statements and tried to evaluate the statements and compared whether the females are not satisfied and something like that. So these are some of the statements, not all the statements. I tried to give over here is that there is not that much difference in the job satisfaction. The same thing we can see in the case of satisfaction level who are there in the STEM field in literature. So our study also confirms the same thing. Those who are working in the field, they are not showing much difficult issues as far as the satisfaction point is concerned, or the benefit point is concerned. So we conducted a factor analysis, and we found that these are the two factors of the 12 statements. We could brought about two factors, and this is regarding the females job satisfaction table. Actually, we did it for the general public and for the men and other things, but I already presented the table for the females. So we found that females, there is a very much concern about the work-life balance and the benefits rather than the overall satisfaction and belongingness. But when it comes to male, that portion is much more, and their share is more compared to women. So as I told earlier, two factors where the work-life balance and the benefits from the job plays a very important role. So to conclude, we could see that from our study that the gender is a very important influencing factor which helps them to choose their work as well as their attainment. And whatever earning potential we could find is that the educational attainment, especially in the technical phase, and when I'm saying this, education skill is also included in it, because we conducted an analysis on skill also. So the skill plays a very important role as far as STEM jobs are concerned. And also the work satisfaction and societal involvement is high, and they are not simply concerned about the monetary benefits, because they are the very promising and very highly performing students when they were in the colleges and in the schools. So they feel that they could contribute something to the society. But when it comes to the reality, women are still lagging behind, and they are discouraged to enter into the field, and they are in a very difficult position to retain in the field. So the society must help the women to muster courage and inculcate the ability to strive, so that they will be more visible in the society and they will contribute more to the society. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That was a great presentation. And I think we can go to the second presentation by Aravind, Panikkaveettil, Sree, Shiga, and Dr. S. Harikumar. I think we can have the discussion at the end of the session, right? Okay. Yeah, Aravind, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Am I audible? Okay. So, good morning to everyone. So, this is the paper that I have co-authored with one of my colleagues in IRTC and my research supervisor, Dr. Harikumar. So, the topic of our paper is gendered and intertemporal differences in the educational attainment of the Kumbharan in Kerala. So, this is a paper that I have authored basically based on my PhD thesis, which was on the livelihood issues of the Kumbharan community of potters, mainly seen in the Malabar region in Kerala. So, giving an introduction on the Kumbharan. So, they are a migrant community who have been in Kerala for almost 350 years. So, they are a Telugu-speaking community And they're mainly seen in Palakkad, Thrissur, Malappuram, Wayanad, Kozhikode, and Kannur districts. The population is mostly concentrated in Palakkad, Thrissur, and Malappuram. There are smaller numbers in Wayanad, Kozhikode, and Kannur. Mostly those are families who have migrated from the Palakkad region. So this is a community that basically came to Kerala from Tamil Nadu almost 350 years ago. They initially settled down in Palakkad and then dispersed, across different districts of Kerala. So this is a community that even today practices their traditional livelihood of pottery to a great degree. And a lot of these individuals are still shackled within the structure of caste. That is where caste actually defines the kind of economic activity that an individual undertakes. So we have basically used that from Weber's concept of caste as being a determinant of a person's economic status and their livelihood. And this community is also a deeply patriarchal community where men have the authority and men have the power. So women are a deeply disadvantaged group within this community. And due to this deeply patriarchal nature, the men themselves are the ones who are inflicting all this, the kind of restrictions upon the women. And a lot of women within the community have internalized this kind of patriarchy. So as far as literature on the Kumbharan is concerned, this is a community which has not been studied a lot in Kerala. We only have a few studies. Some of them are a bit old. You have the descriptions from Thurston and Iyer. Those are from the first few years of the 20th century. So these are almost 100-year-old works of literature. But these are mostly concentrated on explaining or giving a description on the social status of the community, their features as far as the place in the caste hierarchy are concerned. And we don't have many studies on the educational status of the community. One of the only studies that we have is a report from in 1994 that was put out by Kirtads. And that study itself is, it hasn't concentrated so much on the education. It just makes a broad statement that the community is educationally very bad. So that study in itself is almost 30 years old. And we have gone for this study as part of my PhD thesis, where we have looked at the education attainment of the Kumbharan community. And we are looking at how it has changed over time between men and women. So we basically have three broad objectives as part of this paper. So one is to observe the intergenerational pattern of education attainment, seeing how it has changed over the years. And the second objective is to see how it differs between men and women. And the third objective is to compare the status of the Kumbharan with that of traditionally marginalized groups in Kerala, that is the Dalits, the Adivasis, and the traditional fishermen. So we have basically gone for a mixed methodology here. So I am someone who has done extensive qualitative fieldwork among the Kumbharan. And we have also gone for a questionnaire-based field survey in 3 districts, Palakkad, Malappuram, and Thrissur. That was done between January and April 2019. We also did the qualitative work in Kozhikode and Wayanad. So that was a long process. It started in October 2015, and we kind of closed it in 2021 because of the pandemic and everything. So for the survey, we had covered 312 households, including 1,195 individuals across different age groups. And for the survey, we undertook cluster sampling because this community lives in clusters, like you have the Adivasi settlements. So you have Kumbharan settlements in different places across these districts. So we have done cluster sampling for the households. And for the interviews and FGDs, we have gone for purposive sampling. We have kept a number of criteria, including age, education attainment, gender. So we have different criteria for the inclusion and exclusion. And then we have gone for purposive sampling for the interviews and FGDs. We have gone for 25 in-depth interviews with different women and men within the community. And we have done 2 rounds of FGDs in each district. So the broad findings from our study is that the Kumbharan are a community who have an overall poor level of educational attainment. The literacy rate is at 83%, which is significantly lower than the 94%, which is Kerala state average according to the 2011 census. So these figures are from 2019, so that's almost 8 years after the census. So it is likely that the figure was probably lower in 2011. So male literacy is at 92%, which is pretty close to the state average, but female literacy at 75% significantly lags below the Kerala state average. We have also seen sharp intergenerational shifts within the education attainment of the Kumbharan. And there are also distinct differences in the education attainment of men and women within this community. So the tables in the following slides will explain how the situation has changed over time and how it differs between men and women. So the first set of tables that we have relates to the educational profile of the community. So as we can see, illiteracy is a major issue. Almost 192 individuals of the 838. So 838 does not include children who are very young and below the age of 6. So those children are excluded, and this basically includes children above the age of 6 and adults who are above the age of 18. So illiteracy is a major issue among the Kumbharan. And you also have a significant number of dropouts, basically in the older age groups. So the table on the left, which gives the details of education details that has been completed, shows that there are only a very few individuals in the community out of 838 who have gone for any kind of education beyond their plus 2. So the number of graduates we have 35, around 40 individuals, that is almost around 5% of this entire sample. And it is likely that the number may not be much higher even if we go for like census among the Kumbharan. So if we look at the mean education attainment of individuals in each age group, we can see that women above the age of 50 have a mean education attainment of 0, which means that we did not find a single individual among these women who was literate above the age of 50. All the women who were literate were below the age of 50. And there were a few who were actually able to read and write, who were around 60 years old, but none of them have been to school. So women are a very disadvantaged group within the Kumbharan when it comes to education attainment. In recent times, as we can see from the mean education attainment across different age groups, in recent times the situation is changing because women are at least on par with the men in the community. But back in the day, it was very difficult for women to actually attain the kind of education. So we have gone for a two-way ANOVA to see how age and sex actually interact with the education attainment of individuals. So the ANOVA table is here on the left, and as we can see, the F values are significant, which means that we may reject all of our null hypotheses that there are no significant differences between men and women and between individuals in different age groups. And we also have strong interaction between the two variables. So as we can see on the right, you have the means plot, and we can see that there are differences between each age group, and there are also differences between the men and women when it comes to their education attainment. So we basically explored the reasons for the rather poor education attainment of women within this community. And when we looked for the reasons for dropout, we had 269 dropouts who responded to this question. And these are basically the primary reasons for the dropouts and for lack of schooling. Lack of schooling basically for the 205 individuals who have never been to school, even if they are literate without schooling. So as far as the reason for dropout is concerned, the men mostly said that they face caste-based discrimination in schools, and they also face a language barrier. And we can basically explain this in terms of the position that the Kumbharan occupy in Kerala's caste hierarchy in the Malabar region. So this is a community who are migrants, and although they consider themselves to be an upper caste group, in Kerala's social hierarchy, they are considered a lower caste, and they have faced significant caste-based discrimination in schools as children. So when we went for the interviews and FGDs, we had a lot of respondents, men and women, but mostly men, who said that they used to face caste-based discrimination in schools from teachers and from the fellow students. And they also have this issue of language barrier, where this is a community who continue to speak in Telugu at home. So they do not use Malayalam even today. They use Telugu to converse between themselves, and they only use Malayalam to talk to an outsider. So when I went there for my interviews and FGDs, I was an outsider. So they used to talk with me in Malayalam. But amongst themselves, even when I was seated there for the interviews and for the FGDs, the community members themselves, they spoke with each other only in their mother tongue, which is a mix of Telugu, Tamil, and Malayalam, which is a language that has evolved. They called it the Kumbhara Bhasha, but it's mostly based on Telugu. For the women, however, the primary reason for dropout is a lack of encouragement from their families. So 83 of 130 women said that they faced a lot of discouragement from their families. The point to note is that the Kumbharan are a community who even today believe that the primary role of a woman is only that of a caregiver, and that a woman does not need to get education. So a lot of men and women who we met during the interviews and FGD said that a woman does not need to get so much in terms of education, because she obviously doesn't have to go out and earn a living. She doesn't have to go for a job. Her only job would be to look after the household, give birth to children, the traditional patriarchal idea of what a woman should be like. And when we asked them for the lack of schooling, that is why they were illiterate or why they could not go to school, again, the lack of encouragement of the family was the main reason for the women, and followed by poverty at home. Because this community back in the day, even now, they are a very poor community in terms of economic status. This is a community which is very backward. So I have not included those tables in this paper, but the community is very deprived in terms of economic status as well, even to this day. And for most of the houses that we saw had around 600 square feet, 500 to 600 square feet in size, and land holding was only around 3 to 4 cents in almost 80 to 85% of cases across the field study. So poverty continues to be a problem for the Kumbharan, and we also have this lack of encouragement from the family for the women, mainly for the women. So the distance to school was also a significant factor, because back in the day, we did not have an extensive road network in many areas. The Kumbharan live in clusters that are mostly, in many cases, they are very remote areas where transportation is a major issue. So one of the clusters that we went to for our interviews was at a place called Kumaranallur in Thrissur district, which is not that far from an urban area like Vadakkancherry municipality, but it was still a bit interior area. And back in the day, it was very difficult for those people to actually go to schools. So now we have this change in terms of education, of attainment of higher education. So as we can see, we have this change because younger people are actually going for education beyond 12 years of schooling. So in that respect, but even then, they take up is mostly for normal arts and science degrees. So professional degree is not being pursued by a lot of individuals, and they basically say that they do not have much in terms of reservation. So that is an issue that has been brought up by this community. Even recently, even last week, they gave a submission to the government of Kerala saying that we need reservation and professional degrees as well. So they said that they have 2% reservation among the OEC communities for arts and science degrees. And that is why a lot of individuals have actually gone for arts and science degrees. Even then, it is women who outnumber men when it comes to collegiate education. And men are actually more likely to go for an ITI or a diploma because they feel that it is easier to get a job if they go for some kind of course like that. And they feel that they have a chance to migrate abroad or find decent jobs in Kerala itself. Now, if we ask them for why they found it, why they actually went for a higher level of education than the older generations. So the primary reason for women when it comes to attaining more than 10 years of schooling was personal motivation. Like many girls that we saw, especially those in the age group of 18 to 21 years, they said that they were able to complete 12 years of schooling because they felt motivated to do so because of their peers. They felt that, the girls who were there with them were actually going for 12 years of schooling, and they felt that they also wanted to do it. There is another factor that was not mentioned by these individuals explicitly, but the legal age of marriage being 18 years is also a contributing factor because it was 18 when we did the survey, it's 21 now. So many men said that it was not legally possible for them to get their daughters married before the age of 18. Although a significantly high number of men said that they wanted their daughters to get married at the age of 14 and 15. This 2 years back. They felt that they would run into legal issues, and they felt obliged to teach their daughters up to class 12. It is not necessarily because of what do you say? They feel that they want to teach their daughters, but it's mostly a legal obligation to teach their daughters up to class 12. They say that we don't want the daughters to sit around at home doing nothing, so let them go to school and gain some kind of education. Uh, and again, there are a few cases because around 43 women said that they got encouragement from their families. So this is mainly from mothers who did not have much in terms of education, and they wanted their daughters to actually go to school, go to college, and then find meaningful jobs outside. So one of the women that we saw in this is in Peridhalmanna. So she was like, she's a middle-aged lady and she has 3 children. So she was like, I only got to study till class 8 because, and that too was because of external pressures from the school management. She actually studied in a convent school in Shornur, and she was like, the sisters came there and they forced our parents to send us to school. But again, she had to drop out because of a large amount of discouragement, and she got married at the age of 40. So she was like, I was not able to get much in terms of education, but I want my daughter to actually study well, and I want her to achieve higher education and go for a job outside. So there are women who want the younger generations to take up education, although the men are generally not in favor of that so much.
Excuse me, Aravind.
And
Yeah,
yes,
it's
sir.
been 15 minutes, and I think it would be great if you could wind
Yeah,
up the.
yes. I'm winding up. I am winding it up. I'm winding
Yeah,
it
it
up.
will
Like
take
two
4 5
minutes.
minutes. Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
yes. So when we compare the status with the other marginalized groups in Kerala, you have the SC and ST groups, again, who in terms of literacy are behind the state average, but uh, for the ST communities, they are the only group who are on par with the Kumbharan in terms of literacy. The SC communities are actually significantly better than the Kumbharan. Data for literacy is not exactly available for from the census for fisher folk in Kerala, but the literature says that again the fisher folk in Kerala are a very marginalized group when it comes to education. Um, so dropout rates have been falling across the board for all groups as far as the literature is concerned. And in terms of higher education, there is an increasing number of children from SC and ST communities in Kerala, and the proportion in higher education is roughly on par with that of their representation in Kerala's population. However, statewide figures are not exactly available for traditional fisher folk when I look through the literature. So, as far as the final words are concerned, so the Kumbharan are an educationally deprived group, and their status is actually on par with other marginalized groups in Kerala. There is a large amount of illiteracy and lack of education among them. And although the situation is changing in recent times, the change is actually happening at a slow pace. And we feel that over the next 20 to 30 years, the situation might change significantly because more girls are getting educated. And this actually enables them to dismantle their social systems that actually stifle the women. The change is pretty slow, but it is actually happening amongst the Kumbharan. Thank you.
No, I'm Harikumar, and I have a question to Christabell. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, very, very good morning. See, your paper on the shortage of STEM among the females, that the paper is a welcome one. But my concern is that if you look at the higher education scenario even in Kerala, there is no discrimination even in STEM. If you take the enrollment, so there we can find that many girls are joining. If you take the PG admissions, there we find in your department, if you admit 25 students, I think 19 will be girls. 19 will be girls. In my university, where we had conducted a gender study on the last this somewhere in 2014, there we found that the majority is 75% of the students are female students. And now the recent study that we have done for NAC, there we found that it is going up to 85 now. So as far as so in our university, it's a technology, it's a science and technology university. The students are actually, there is no discrimination as far as admission is concerned. There is no discrimination as far as the campus interview is taking place. But the problem, I think, that you underestimated is probably this problem arises is just because of the issue of work-life balance. Work-life balance. That is the reason why the girls are not taking up jobs like this. If you take the IT industry, there we will find this. Now, if you have gone through some of the paper report, you might have heard about the great resignation that is happening in US and other European countries, where the 40% of the IT people are resigning due to this pandemic. And then the reason there it is the issue of work-life balance. For the last 1.5 years, the IT workers, both men and women, are working from a different locality with a different environment out of office. So they are quite comfortable in doing that. When they are forced to join in a entirely after different environment, they could not match they could not keep up their work-life balance, which they were enjoying. Possibly, this is one of the reasons why people are quitting or not, girls are not interested in taking up jobs like this. If you take the teaching department also, there we'll find that enrollment of teachers, number of teachers in government colleges, number of teachers in the arts and science colleges. Now, ladies are coming up. So the kind of discrimination, or you cannot call it as a discrimination, as you can call it as a gender differences exist. Then as far as the salaries or wages are concerned, I don't think that there is any kind of discrimination. Probably there could be a possibility of attaining promotions. There it is not. There also it is not a discrimination. The ladies may not be preferring to take up higher responsibilities. That is why they may not be prepared to go up for a review or something like that. There also the reason why they are not going for this review, maybe because of they are contented with the existing or the current the life that they were enjoying. So there are many sociological reasons behind this issue, and the society which you were mentioning, that there needs a change in the attitude of parents. And there needs changes in the family system itself. You compare the family system in US, UK with that of India, a lot of differences we can find. So there you may not feel this kind of issue, but we have this issue basically due to this. Is a comment that I would like to make, which probably may enrich your explanation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your comment. Actually, I was also in the end of that paper, I was trying to bring that point into the focus. That is, work-life balance is the most important issue most of the women have raised during the interviews. One instance, one casual talk with one of my colleagues that actually made me to jump into this study. She is a contract lecturer in biotechnology department, and her husband is a polymer scientist. He got his PhD from US, and he is in BSSC. She is having PhD in biotechnology, and she is contented with the job which is offered by the University of Kerala. At that time, she was only earning 20,000 or something like that. It is a contract job. And I asked her why you are not trying for a scientist post or something like that, because I know that person very, very personally. She's a very capable lady, but she said in one word, it's family. She couldn't say a word after that. She's not saying anything about her aspirations and what and her attainments or the qualifications she had, and she took a lot of effort to finish her PhD and so on. But for the family, the females are supposed to take sacrifices compared to males in our society. So the societal attitude should also change. Then only the women can come out and they can try out the challenging jobs in STEM field. Actually, the jobs in STEM field are challenging. So that challenges the women are able to take up, but the familial, the personal, the sociological issues are actually pulling them back. So there must be some kind of changes, especially during this lockdown period. The companies said that their productivity has gone up because the women could take care of the things which are there at home, and simultaneously they could do the work also. So the women in IT field during that period, a part of my survey was going on. They said, we are happy with this thing. We do not want to travel, and we do not want to go to the office sometimes, in Ernakulam or something like that. The traffic jam is there. We will be fed up when we reach office. That kind of comments were there. So this is not only because of I never use the word discrimination. I use the word gap, and I use the word disparity. I used another word called glass ceiling. That kind of phenomenon we could find in this field. And sometimes the women get demotivated because of not getting recognized, especially in the private sector. As you have mentioned, in the public sector, more teachers are coming because same qualification is given for men and women for a particular job, for a position of assistant professor or a position of higher secondary lecturer. So the women are coming up in those areas because there are no discrimination, and based on their qualification they are coming up. But when it comes to the private sector, especially the IT sector and the engineering kind of field, it is not only the qualification, it is your skill and your capacity to manage the stress and attain the targets. So that kind of things that play a very important role rather than their performances. So as a woman, I personally feel very bad about the girls who are there in the campuses, in the colleges, who perform very high academically, but they can't turn up or they can't land up in the right jobs. That is yet another pain which made me to conduct this particular study. I take your comments in a very, very positive manner. I'll incorporate in my...
one more point connected with this. That's just
yes,
now
sir,
I
please.
got it. See,
Please.
if you can also find that the issue of underemployment. If you take just a survey of Euro University Administrative Department, there you will find that many BTech graduates are working. Even I heard that the BDS students are working in Kerala University as assistants. And if you take they are all girls.
That's good.
That is also a point that you have to note.
Yeah, one of my friends, he says that it is any degree tag. So the PSC is giving that that requirement as any degree. It can be BDS, or it can be BTech, or it can be BA Malayalam, or it can. So for university assistant, that is enough. But actually, in university itself, there are different specializations. Some people are needed in IT section. Some people are needed in accounting section. So if you are in a position to find the people just needed for that particular section, maybe the whole scenario may change, or this kind of people may not enter into it. They may go to the respective field.
In our system, that will not work. Suppose one MCA student joined as an assistant in the university administrative system, and sometimes he will be posted in the Karivattam economics department.
yes, that is the problem.
After knowing that she is an MCA student, he must be posted in the computer center. Am I right?
Yeah, yes, sir. That is the problem with our system.
Is essential to solve this issue. So that is also there.
In KSCB,
Yes.
In Kerala Water Authority, the engineers are appointed as assistant engineers only.
Yes.
Okay, so when I talk to them, they are very happy with that. But what the problem with Kerala Water Authority, KSB and BSNL, they are very much afraid about the security of job.
Yes.
Whether these companies will be there, KSB is privatized. So they are also very much concerned about their job. If I have gone to IT, it would have been better. That kind of comments I got from the interviews. That is there because even in the government field, in the quasi-government sectors, they're not feeling that job security. But for that, the women can come in if the qualification is there and they could able to clear that examination. That is a good thing as far as government is concerned. But as far as in the private sector is concerned, it is the quality of the person. It is the skill because I interviewed some people in Nizan. They are doing the data analysis jobs over there. What they do is that they pick the students from the engineering background and they teach them Python, they teach them all the data analysis tools, and they are employed over there. But the statistics students, mathematics students are left out. So that kind of disparities are also there because the engineering students are studying the areas in an applied mode. So that people are more amenable to training. So again, it comes back to our education system. Our statistics students are only given theory classes rather than practical classes or coding classes. That kind of skill issues are also there. Skill gap is actually in my project. I have given an area for skill gap because of lack of time. Only I couldn't bring all those things into it. But once you are there in the employment, the women are not dissatisfied. That is the interesting thing. When they are there, they enjoy the job and they contribute in a very, very much better manner. And I interviewed another lady who is working with Australian New Zealand Bank, ANZ. What the government does, it is an amazing fact. The government accredits or assess the companies as women-friendly companies. If the rank is more for that company, there will be tax exemption for that company. So that the company asks the women to take career breaks, to go with their families, to build their families. The manager will come and tell the employee that yes, you waited for the baby for 3 years. Now you can think about that. We can support you. You contributed much to the company. So that kind of support systems are there in some of the companies, and the women are very much loyal to that companies also. They never go away, or they never withdraw, or they never resign from the companies. But as far as men are concerned, the attrition rates are very high. The reason is, whenever they are offered with a higher salary, they just jump from one company to another company. But the women, they stay back in the companies because, when the companies give a bit of work-life balance to the women. So that kind of different aspects we could find when we did our data collection or interviews.
Okay,
different aspects are there.
Aravind, I have a question. Aravind, are you there? Yeah, here. I recently met you at Youth Summit, I think, at AKT Center. That day too, you had a presentation.
Yes. That was last March.
Yeah. So, yeah. So the thing is, you actually did a lot of study on this, and your PhD thesis was also on this terracotta artisans on
Yes.
Malabar.
It's the same community.
Yeah. And in this paper, you in the final portion, you said that it could take kind of like 10 years for some kind of change to happen. In terms of the illiteracy that they're facing. Do you think that there is something that can be done to quicken this? I mean, to improve the literacy among these people, because basically, when we talk about these communities and when they follow these traditional perceptions of the society, they instill this idea of the girls don't need to get that much literate at a very early age, and because of this they are not able to get higher education at all. So basically this is instilled from the family itself. Do you have any suggestions how we can counter this in any way?
See, I believe that this community is largely invisible even for policymakers in Kerala. So, as far as improving literacy rates are concerned, I think these people, they're not much aware about the literacy campaigns in Kerala. For example, I'm currently working on a UNICEF project that focuses on the involvement of district panchayats on education in Kerala. And there are a lot of projects across the state that focus on continuing education and adult literacy, but the members from this community have not been participating in any of those programs. So I think that going into this community and making them aware of these steps will actually bring a lot of women, especially older women, within the fold of this programs for continuing education and adult literacy. But apart from that, I don't think there's much else that we can do as far as making these people literate is concerned. The younger generations are actually going to school. Most of them are completing the school, at least till class 10. And I believe the change will happen slowly over the next maybe 20 years, probably, possibly.
I think we can wind up the session. So we had two amazing presentations, and we had some very valuable insights from Harikumar sir also. So I think we can wind up the session. Now I invite Aisha S to deliver the vote of thanks. Aisha, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, sure. You're audible.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks for session 9 of the International Webinar on Women's Development. We have been very fortunate to have today's paper presentation to grace our occasion by Dr. Christabell PJ, University of Kerala, on the paper Earning Potential and Job Satisfaction Among Women in STEM-related Jobs, and Aravind Panikkaveettil, Sree Shiga PS, and Dr. S. Harikumar on the paper Gendered and Intertemporal Differences in the Educational Attainment of the Kumbharan in Kerala. Also, I would like to extend a special thanks to Rizwan KG, MPhil Scholar, for being the moderator of the session, and Gayatri Prem V of First MA Economics for delivering the welcome address. I also wish to express my gratitude to our HOD Anita ma'am, Siddik sir, and all other teachers for giving us such an opportunity. I finally extend my big thank you to all the participants and volunteers for your active participation and support. Thank you.